Hello, and welcome. My name is Rich. This is Champions Online, which we are playing in a Let's Play. I need to rework that. I'm getting closer, I think. But habit is hard for me to break. And I have just about formed the habit, I think, of saying, hey, my name is Rich, and this is name of game. I don't need that anymore. So I've done that mission, I just haven't handed it in. I think there's probably supposed to be a way of disabling that fire, because I think it's rather conspicuous. The only crypt being on fire, or which is on fire, being here, and where's Pyro? And it's also the location of a mission called Unfriendly Fire. But I am not really sure. Oh well, let's just get started, I suppose. Hey, welcome. Yes, this is Champions Online. Came out in 2009, so it is a little old at this point. But it is still going. And welcome also to you, Air the Red. Yes, slightly ahead of DCUO in terms of age. City of Heroes would be the eldest if it was still, or if the run was contiguous, which unfortunately it wasn't, and currently is only available on fan run servers. But yes, Champions Online is the longest running superhero MMO. There are a lot of references in it to other superhero games, and also just in general to lots of other things. Can I attack the fire? That's immune. I wonder whether I could disable the fire with ice powers. I've got. Well, let's try it. Oh yes, that worked. Splendid. The game is free to play, although if you're only playing for free, your ability to create characters is limited. You have a huge variety of powers to choose from, but if you're free to play player, you have to choose a framework when you're creating a character. This is a freeform character, and you can more or less, with a freeform character, choose any power that you feel like. Quite a long way into the game at this point. This is the final, well, the place I was just before, Vibora Bay, is the final zone of the game, like the final outdoor zone. There are more in the form of adventure packs that you can play. I think even as a free-to-play player. But you can't go to them freely, and they're not shared external zones. They're unique to the people on the mission that takes you there. So they're, I guess, instanced. The game is no longer in the hands of the people who created it, Cryptic. It's owned by and run by Perfect World Entertainment, who are not interested, unfortunately, in creating more content for the game. Strictly speaking, there's no new gear, I don't think, no new missions, no new zones. They've stripped the dev team down to one person, who they have tasked with creating basically loot crates, these things. This is a Cosmos lockbox, which you need to pay real people money to open, or grind an absolute ton to earn the in-game currency that you can change for preparatory currency. But having said that, I feel, given that I'm playing the game, that it's quite enjoyable. There's a lot to enjoy. It's very, very flexible in terms of power creation. So, good score there. It's got probably the most flexible character builder I've seen. I don't know if it's the most flexible going, because I haven't played every game in existence. Oh, yes, free the hostage, good. So character creation, very good, high scores. Character interaction with the plot, very poor, low score. You have no ability to affect the plot whatsoever, other than simply refusing to take missions and complete them, which in action is a choice, but it means that you don't get to experience most of what the game is trying to show you. You probably could infer a certain amount from just wandering around, defeating mobs out in the world, and reading the info text about each faction. But a concise, contiguous story it would not tell. I wonder why they've stopped here. Are they waiting for the last person? Ah, yes. I'll wait for the others. Let's get out of here. There we are. And luckily they are... Oops, hello. I was going to say... Hey, Ravenforce, welcome. That's not what I was going to say. I was going to say, but still welcome. I was going to say, lucky they are that I've cleared the way. And yet, just as I was about to say that... Oh, hello. There was another set of villains. Are you doing the thing again? where you refuse to connect. Oh, you are. How wonderful. I do so love it when that happens. Okay. I suppose we can expect the same thing to happen here. Rescue the hostages, and then get penned in by magic fire and demons. Although, we're fighting Trey Kings. Oh no, that makes sense. I was going to say, because they look a lot like servants of the Kings of Edom, which are not demons, quite specifically. They're Clyphothic beings, which are like this world's version of beings in the Cthulhu mythos, I suppose. The Kings of Edom are kings of ruin and beings that represent ruin and destruction and... I'll wait for the others. Yeah, there we go. And consumption. And the Kings of Edom specifically are hidden away. They're imprisoned. And the mooks, these guys, the henchmen, this model is what their servants look like. But in fact, these are not servants of the Kings of Edom. These are Trey Kings, a street gang who have been corrupting themselves with demonic magic. So I suppose that the two things are similar in that you can accomplish this transformation with demonic knowledge and magic. But the Trey Kings do not serve the Kings of Edom, as far as I'm aware. Or at least they didn't start out serving the Kings of Edom. Ah, got the crypt key, which I assume is what I need to get through this door, which will take me into this area. So I was wondering why I was encountering actual demons, fire demons in this case, in this mission, when all of the mobs suggest Kings of Edom, and the demonic and the Kings of Edom are not. They're two separate factions. They're not the same thing. But then I realised we're actually not dealing with the Kings of Edom. We're dealing with just people who happen to look like them. Or that look like Clyphothic beings. I don't want to call them demons because they're not. So to talk about the combat in the game, it's not terrible. It's not particularly dynamic either, though. There's no global cooldown, which is nice. But there are a bunch of powers that are on cooldowns, which is fine. I mean, you don't have to have everything immediately available. But because you're if you're playing freeform, your options are limited to a certain number of powers, and of them, some have to be given over. Some of the choices have to be given over to picking like passive background effects that would be part of these fires are quite a long distance apart, aren't they? Class benefits, class backgrounds, and class effects if you if you were playing a game with a class system, which this game doesn't really have. I mean, archetypes are kind of like that, but archetypes do still allow you a small amount of choice, just only in a few places. But because it's been a very long time since I last played with archetypes, I'm not the person to talk to about which are good choices for archetype and which are not so great choices. But luckily, there is a Discord for the game, and it is populated by some very helpful people who would be, I'm sure, happy to help any new players navigate the choices of the game. Where are they going? That's not the way out, is it? Oh, it is. I was confused. I thought this was the way out. Well, it's just as well they know where they're going. I clearly don't. Now, is my connection still... Yes, it is. Still fucked. Alright, let's try a different Wi-Fi. I don't know why this happens every time. Let's try turning the Wi-Fi off and on again. I don't have a second monitor, so I have the chat open on my phone, and unfortunately my phone has to rely on Wi-Fi. I can't hardline connect with a cable to the router. Now, so which means that sometimes I just can't see chat, which I'm very sorry about, but I don't have a better fix for. So if anybody has been talking in chat for the last 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and I wasn't responding, I apologize. It's not really something I have very much control over. No, stop it. Go away. Let's see where the chat will work better on my tablet instead. I didn't notice a lag spike on my end, luckily. I have experienced a couple of them, but not today. What exactly are we supposed to be doing here again? Get the Adustrum family crest to gain access to the Adustrum crypt. Rescue the hostages and stop the Trey King's ritual to resurrect Charnel. Use the Storm Crest of Damballa to extinguish any mystical fires. Right, yes. I remember now. I complained about his name last time. Because... Oh, no, there we go. There's a big lag spike. Wow. That sucks. If it continues, it will render the game unplayable, which would be unfortunate. And I don't, at the moment, have a backup game that I could play instead. Not to mention that would make it rather awkward. Have I said... Did I just say not to mention... Did I repeat myself? If I were to change to a different game, it would rather unfortunately mess up my... Let's Play uploads. Rubber banded upper volcano side, very jarring. Maybe we're all lagging in the game and real life as well. Maybe. Yes, bouncing. Yeah, rubber banding is very unpleasant. In that it's frustrating because you can't move around. Discovered something unpleasant about Star Wars Online. No, not Star Wars Online. Star Wars The Old Republic, which is... It could be subtitled Star Wars Online, but you can't fly in Star Wars Online. You're very, very much planet-bound. I don't want to say Earth-bound, because there is no planet called Earth in the game. But as a result, when you're moving around, you run into every piece of geometry on the floor. And there's a lot of geometry on the floor, because they individually model like big plates or rocks or rubble or like the edges of big blast doors and stuff. And the thing about the game's engine is that the camera tries to perfectly follow the character at whatever altitude they're at, and when you run into such geometry like rocks on the floor or whatever, your character judders up and down if it's a very small, you know, abrupt piece of geometry. So running around, if you don't spend all your time jumping over absolutely everything, which makes you look like a maniac, I have found, for my own experience and my own neural makeup, I suppose, that the juddering that I get is a little dizzying. It's quite unpleasant. But I'm not here to complain about an entirely different game. I'm here to complain about this game, I suppose. That's largely what I end up doing, isn't it? I suppose it's easier to be negative than it is positive. Why are they worshipping? Does it help the mystic process? Oh, no matter. I should stop them. Oh, do I have to free them all individually? Yes. CO has a lot of points to be negative about. You do kind of have to search for more obscure positives. Yeah, I guess. I mean, the references are nice. Why? There we go. Well, at least we got them all. No, there wasn't a fourth one. Aren't those manacles a bit too large to successfully hold these people? Or maybe they were tied to those rings. I suppose that might be the method by which they were restrained. I didn't actually look in very much detail. But it would be weird if they were just kind of holding their hands in the correct position. Well, maybe like this. With just large rings that they could slip their hands through easily around their wrists. Where will the ambush spring from? Oh, here we are. I managed to switch that one off before it spawned any demons. And this one. There we go. Can they? No. Oh, there's two this time on each side. That's annoying. Wait, this is a fire golem, not a demon. Except it's using the same information text as a demon. I mean, it makes sense that a mage who was famous for using fire would have fire golems, however that would work, guarding his tomb. But, you know, it's extremely lucky that these guys don't harm the hostages. But how exactly does one create a golem out of fire? Traditionally, golems were made out of clay. And to make a golem, you had to... Well, I don't know the exact process, and I'm sure that it has become mangled since the original tradition was invented. But it involved, I think, carving instructions either into... Oh, hello. The golem itself, or into a little figurine that was put into the golem, or fiery fiends from the flaming pits of the infernal netherworld. Avoid the fire patches sparked by this blazing behemoth and block its barrage of blistering fireballs. She got... No, it's not someone with a crown. It's 3 women or more with different hairstyles all overlaying one another. I'd imagine some sort of magical lava or mystical flame rocks. Then again, if they come from another dimension, magic. Yeah, it could be. By this point, in popular culture, the whole term of a golem, or the idea of a golem, has become very much more flexible than it started out being. It's just, when you know anything at all about the origin of golems, it's very odd that someone would try and make a golem out of fire. Like, I suppose you could call it a flame golem, or golem. It should probably be golem, shouldn't it? Because Golem was a character in Lord of the Rings. And now I'm imagining a variety of elemental golems. All of them pining after different types of ring. So golems had a very specific creation process that involved inscribing instructions onto something, either a little figurine that you then put into the major body of the golem, or the body of the golem itself, golem, I should say, itself, or I think onto a scroll with instructions. I mean, that's how golems work in Terry Pratchett's Discworld series. So, quite how you would inscribe instructions onto fire, or place a control object into fire that is, you know, supported and wanders around with the golem, whilst the golem goes about its instructed business. Well, I suppose you could inscribe the instructions on something that's fireproof, but then why would the golem end up looking like it's made of flesh? I mean, there are fire elementals in Dungeons and Dragons, but I think it probably depends on edition, but I don't think that they're described as having physical bodies? No, that doesn't sound right. Well, the thing about elemental spirits in Dungeons and Dragons is that they come from different elemental planes and different planes of existence. And just because... What exactly are we doing here? Which mission is this? Emres Pyros. This one, okay. OTH. Don't know what that might stand for. And it's probably not intentional. But yes, elemental beings from Dungeons and Dragons, probably the most common, the most influential, the most widely known and referenced type of fantasy setting and fantasy, like, I don't want to say rule set, but idea set. The elemental plane of fire is kind of, it's not just a plane of entirely burning hot plasma. The elemental plane of fire in Dungeons and Dragons is it's really more elemental plane of volcanoes, because there's a lot of rock and lava, and beings such as fire giants, beings with physical bodies, live there. It's not exclusively fire. There's a breathable atmosphere and land on which you can stand in the elemental plane of fire. It's apparently, well, to read the rules, it's rare, but there does exist solid land there, as there also exists solid land in the elemental planes of water and air. And in the elemental plane of Earth, there are conversely rare pockets of what would be the word? Air, I suppose. Caves. So if someone was using that as an inspiration, or not even directly Dungeons and Dragons, because the thing about D&D is that it has inspired lots of pieces of fiction which have then gone on to inspire other writers of fiction, whether they know that they're drawing from an idea that originated in a pen and paper RPG or not. So just because an author doesn't cite Dungeons and Dragons as an inspiration for their fantasy setting doesn't mean that ultimately that's where the inspiration came from. Although I suppose if we're tracing things back to their absolute grandfather, it's probably Tolkien and Gygax. So Tolkien, creator of Lord of the Rings, inspired the settings and, you know, elves and dwarves and so on. And Gygax and his friends created, first Chainmail, which was really more of a wargaming rule set than a role-play rule set, but Chainmail was the origin of Dungeons and Dragons. It was just a set of rules for a larger scale combat, and from Chainmail came the first Dungeons and Dragons rule set, and it's from that, which was very, very, very heavily influenced by Lord of the Rings. Pretty sure that Tolkien was the first to really separate out elves from general fae. The idea still persists in a lot of fiction, but he was, I think, the first person to make them a unique species that wasn't like a type of fairy. Interestingly, the origin of the terms for, and ideas really more than terms, for dwarves is a type of elf, which again in Tolkien's cosmology are a separate type of being from elf. And indeed, given their creation myth, well, not myth because it actually happened, but given their creation, separate from more or less everything else, dwarves in Tolkien's universe were not created by the creator god who created elves and men. They were created individually or separate from the god Iluvatar by the god of the Forge, whose name I can't remember. And their creation, I don't want to say myth, but even though it probably would be the most appropriate term, but their creation story illustrates how much of a petty shit Iluvatar is. If anyone is a particular fan of Lord of the Rings, and specifically of the Silmarillion, that might be a bit of a blasphemous thing to say. But the thing about... Well, first of all, I don't care. I don't care about blasphemy. And second, I don't care about any sanctity of thought around the creation of Lord of the Rings. I will admit that it's incredibly influential. I don't particularly enjoy the setting or the books, really, myself. I think there's a... Oh, hello. That's a costume piece. Nephilim hip armor, which apparently I don't have. So I will take it, and I will bind the item so that I have that. Anyway, where did this start? I think I was talking about how before Tolkien, dwarves were actually a type of elf. The Svartalfar, or the Dokalfar. Because dwarves originate from Norse mythology and the... I'm going to mispronounce it, but a cycle of the Poetic Edda, I think, and myths. And there are dwarven characters who feature in stories about Norse gods. I don't know how to pronounce it, but I shall attempt it and almost certainly butcher it. But Nibelungenlied, or Lied, translated as the Songs of the Nibelungs, is an epic poem written around 1200 AD in Middle High German. Its anonymous poet was likely from the region of Passau. Anyway, that's where the most references we find to Dokalfar come from, and that's the name used for dwarf in those earliest texts that we have that refer to them. And you might notice Dokalfar is a combination of two words, Dok, which is D-O-K-K, and Alfar, which is A-L-F-A-R, and basically it means dark elf. Typically they live underground and work in mines and do other things that you might associate now with dwarves. There are also Svartalfar, and I'm not going to attempt to spell that because spelling out loud is one of my weakest abilities. As you may have noticed, given that I struggled to spell aloud the word Alfar, that's my mild dyslexia for you. So basically what I'm saying is that the idea of dwarves and elves being separate didn't exist until Tolkien separated them. They were originally part of the same family, I suppose. They just lived in different places and did different things. They got separated again, kind of, in Dungeons and Dragons, in that they added... Is it just me, or does that sound a little bit like the noise made by the ring wraiths in Lord of the Rings, the films? Particularly the fell beasts that they ride. Anyway, so D&D created the Dark Elves, who live underground, and have dark skin, but they're very different creatures from dwarves. They're incredibly cruel. Almost universally. Never mind that they're a bit of a favourite class or race to play for people who want to create misunderstood loners. It's a bit of a trope and a joke in itself that going by volume of population, if you count all the player characters that people have created, Dark Elves actually are not an evil race. They're almost universally misunderstood emo rebel race. And there is a certain amount of, I think, crossover between players who play such Dark Elves and people suffering from Chunibuyu disease. And it's interesting how the disease doesn't just... I mean, it tends to start at 14-year-olds, but it doesn't... It's not limited to 14-year-olds. And it's less that it's transmissible and more that some people just never recover from it. Which is quite sad. No, that's not what I want. I want... How am I selecting coffee tables and chairs from miles away? It's interesting to me how you can select inanimate objects from a greater distance than you seem to be able to select inanimate objects, particularly damaged inanimate objects, from a greater distance than you can select enemies. Is it this? Yes, it is. Which mission is this? Sewer Kings. No, I'm not trying to select... How, when I was clicking over here, did I manage to select this object? Exactly. Bloody ridiculous. So I've wandered all over the place here, talking about different ideas. Oh, you're experiencing issues with targeting as well. Wild. I can only assume that Kaiserian has attempted to alter something and has disturbed the pile of dominoes, or what would it... Oh, pick up sticks? That was... Is that the name of the game? Disturbed the pile of sticks that needed to be in a particular order for the game to work properly. And is it just me, or is the game a bit louder than previously? Not sure. It set in a few minutes before lag spike. Well, luckily, well, I don't want to jinx it, but currently I do not appear to be experiencing any lag issues, thankfully. I would like the game to continue in this state of affairs. Why did that not manage to beat either of them? I guess I managed to position myself exactly between them, and they were just slightly further away from one another than 10 feet. That was definitely the animation for a bite attack, wasn't it? Which, I know that they've got enormous saw blades strapped to their wrists, but it does make sense because they've also got very, very large mouths. Although those enormous blades that they've got attached, is it just me, or should they not actually be as dangerous as they appear, or as they seem to be able to function as in the game? I mean, there's an issue of leverage involved with them, which I suppose probably can be explained away by magic, but that's a lazy explanation. What I'm trying to get at is that there's just this small, well, relative to the size of the blade itself, small strap across the wrist here, or forearm. Only a few straps across the back of the blade here, and nothing looping across the front to push against. So all of the force is being translated for an attack across the front edge of this serrated blade. Well, it's not really even serrated. It looks like it's scalloped. It's the shape that you would use for a bread knife, which makes them feel considerably less threatening, despite the size. So all of the force is being applied this way. It's difficult to show, well, this way really. It's a little bit easier because the shape of the cursor is pointing this way, but on this side all of the force that would be applied is going this way, and there's nothing attaching the front edge of this blade to the leading edge of the forearm. So all the force would be levering this blade away from its place against the stumps of their hands, I suppose. And it should just kind of lever itself off the forearm and flap around on the wrist connection there, because the connection is actually quite small on the back here, and I've got his attention, so I can't move. I don't think there's really a way to zoom in, unfortunately. Like, this might work better if the bit back here was longer and was attached to more, like if it held his arm straight. Like if it was attached all the way along the back of the arm and had straps across, that would make sense. That would allow it to have enough see, that attack should just lever, or all of these slashing attacks should just lever the and he bit my electricity shield and knocked himself out. Very clever. But luckily there's another one right here. So each of these attacks that use the leading edge of the serrated weapon should lever it away from the forearm. Be very uncomfortable because it would be applying a lot of extra force and like constrictive force to the wrist. And also now I'm noticing there isn't actually anything at the end of the forearm, at the wrist, to stop the strap from just sliding off, because it starts narrow and only gets wider. So the moment that they... I mean, there's only so much you can do with tightening of straps, and with the huge weight of the blades that they've got attached, the weight should pull the blade off their forearm. And if it were light enough, an object, to not pull itself off with its own weight, it would probably weigh something like as if this were made of styrofoam, which would not a good weapon make, because yes, you need a weapon to be light enough for you to be able to wield it, but if it's got no weight at all, then it has no inertia. All you're relying on is your muscle strength. And the great advantage of a weapon, not quite like this, but like a sword or an axe or something, is that you're using leverage to and the weight of the weapon and the length of it away from your arm and the anchor it has in your hand to increase the amount of force that you're applying, and therefore the damage that it does. It's all about using it as a tool to apply more leverage. So if this were light enough to not pull itself off his forearm with its own weight, it would not also have the weight needed to really do very much damage at all. I mean, it would be very unpleasant to be hit by the pointy bits, but the combination of not being heavy enough to pull the strap off the braced, or I don't know what the word would be, but there isn't anything on the end of the stub wrist that flares out again to prevent anything sliding off. Combined with the fact that all of the leverage would be applying up and away, so basically it wouldn't be heavy enough to do very much damage, and even if it did hit, it would still give a lot, rather than directly apply all the force as I don't know whether you can even see that. Assuming that this is the blade, it wouldn't apply all of the force as directly. It would hinge, and you would lose the force. So while the big ass blades on their wrists look very impressive, or scary perhaps, the moment you start thinking about them with any amount of critical attention, they become very much less so. Not to mention the impracticalities of not having any hands at all. Well, it's not even just not having hands, it's in place of hands you have huge spiky serrated blades, or scallops I suppose. So if these devourers, well, I mean, the clue's in the name, isn't it? If these devourers ever consume any physical matter, I mean, I suppose this is assuming that they have a functional digestive tract. If they don't, and everything that they devour just kind of gets subsumed magically once it's within them into energy for the devourer being, then I guess it doesn't actually matter. But if they do have a functional digestive tract that leads to the thing that you find at the end of every digestive tract, almost every digestive tract, there are a few creatures like what are they called? The hair lice, eyebrow lice, something like that don't actually have an anus, and they just collect waste in an ever elongating body throughout their life until they die. But if this guy never expelled any waste, his ass would just elongate to contain it. Which clearly doesn't happen. Or at least, if it does, these are not old devourers. They're very, very new, who haven't devoured very much. But it's easier to assume that they do have a complete digestive tract with an anus, because they were originally humans and have been transformed through magic. Now, I suppose it is an open question. Have they been transformed enough by magic to not need their digestive tract? But, given the fact that they are low-level members of the gang, I think it's reasonable to assume that they haven't received enough magical transformation to free them from that particular earthly concern. So it raises the question, are sadists just here to wipe devourer arses? I suppose, well, maybe not actually. Maybe there's a subsect of Trey King called masochist, which you never actually see because they exist only in Trey King bathrooms, who are present only to undress for excretion, wipe, and then redress devourers after they have done the thing that happens after you devour. Or the thing that ends up happening as a natural progression of the process that starts with devouring anything. Like, I suppose you could claim, as long as you don't invest any amount of critical thought or time into thinking about these guys, that they look quite impressive and scary. But as I have just spent the last 20 minutes or so exploring, possibly longer, any amount of critical thought reveals that they actually look fairly stupid. Well, not even fairly stupid, quite intensely stupid. Great work. Hopefully old Archie will remain undisturbed for decades to come. I mean, I don't know why I wasn't asked to just destroy Charnel's remains. That's a relief. Theomistocles Venedictos. The thought of innocent civilians being used in dark rites to create abominations such as the Nephilim fills me with such disgust and anger that I am rendered nearly speechless. Thanks to you, technical issues, those workers will be able to spend tonight safely among friends and family. That's probably a hand-in for fishy business, so let's go and do Demonic Fandango, which involves rescuing 5 civilians. Once again, apologies if you're typing in chat and I appear to be ignoring it. I do keep checking my phone to see whether there are any new messages, but there isn't an easy way for me to see whether or not it's actually connected. Short of picking up the phone and telling it to open the Wi-Fi app. Which requires both hands and somewhat detracts from my ability to play the game. So, once again, I apologize if it appears as though I'm ignoring anybody typing. But the case of the actual case is that I can't necessarily see any messages sent, for which I can only apologize. These guys are kind of yellow-green and these guys are kind of purple. I wonder if that is consistent across their bodies. Like, I wonder, I hadn't really noticed, but I wonder whether Devourers are this kind of yellowy colour as well. I suppose we'll have to wait and see. What colour are you? Heathen. Kind of purpley. Not quite the same colour as a sadist. And these guys are covered up quite a lot, but the manipulators look kind of yellowy, don't they? I'm kind of imagining that there's a progression from heathen to what's the female villain level? I can't remember. But okay, so from a sadist to a manipulator. The Devourers seem to be the end of their progression line because these guys actually do have hands and they're the wrong build. Even though the manipulators do have blades attached to their forearms, they're not the same size and they're not attached in the same way. I think I got that costume piece actually, so I suppose I could check. I don't have the huge wrist-mounted blade of the Devourers though, so I wouldn't be able to check what that looked like up close in the character builder. Possessed, that's the one. It appears as though Possessed transform into Devourers by becoming even more buff and losing the other hand and having another stupid bread blade attached. I guess it's for cutting very, very large loaves of bread. of surprised at the makeup of the mobs in this mission, actually. You don't usually get this many supervillain level enemies all together in the same place, or so closely together. Stop that. Stop pressing the button. There we go. Is my chat connected now that I have moved? That's weird. The tablet has much better bars than the phone. Are they connected to the same network? No. Let's try connecting to the same network. And will the position directly in front of me, rather than on the desk, make a difference in the arcane workings the deep existential mysteries of Wi-Fi connectivity? Have chat open on the tablet, and it has bars on the Wi-Fi indicator, so I think I will close chat on the phone and put that away because it doesn't appear to be working, and instead use the tablet in its position directly below and in front of me. So this will probably mean I will miss some amount of messages, but provided that it remains connected, actually being able to get some messages is better than not being able to get any. kind of annoying that I can't see the full map. It's not unusual for the game, but the fact that I could see the full map in the previous mission just makes me feel sad that I can't see the whole one in this one, particularly because it means I don't know how long this mission is, how many rooms full of assholes I have to defeat. Final hostage is probably in this room. I mean, I can't see an exit. Yeah, there he is. Hostage. With a scar over his eye. Hostage. A wrecked shirt and bandages, I guess. They've been through a bit of a lot. Been through it a bit so far. We'll finish them off, even though the mission is complete and I could leave. Let's finish them off just so that there are fewer Trade Kings in the world. That's weird. The fact that the light's swinging is causing a band of light to move across the screen. Anyway, there's an exit here in the final room, which is always nice. Let's go and do Stalking on Sunshine. And or Baptism by Ire. Where are the... I collected a bunch... Oh, there we go. Holy water bombs. Collected a bunch of holy water to turn into bombs for this mission. Alright, well... Where do I actually have to be? Can I summon the zombies anywhere? Do I have to be inside the zone? Ah, I am able to see messages again. Reinforce, I love this. Stay on the ground and summon a zombie, then attach bomb. You do not want to be interrupted for that. Yes, I don't imagine I do, because I have a limited number of water bombs. How do I attach? Ah, there we go. And while I have 12... That didn't do very much, did it? While I have 12 of the zombie summoning scrolls, I only have 9 water bombs. Well, except that the zombie summoning scroll number doesn't appear to be going down at all, which is a bit weird. Slightly busted. Used to really piss off vampires. Well, it might be that it's attacking a blood gorger, and therefore not really doing very much to it. But let's move along a little bit further. See if we can convince the zombie to hop along. What, is it skipping? Is it skipping along to a different vampire? How would you characterize this movement? That doesn't seem to have done anything, does it? Shamble skip. Yeah. Oh well. It doesn't matter if it doesn't really do very much to any of the vampires. It just matters that it counts for progress in the mission. That's the only thing that matters. It used to deal damage and actually kill them. Yeah, I think I remember it doing that. Oh, there we go. And the zombie is still standing. Well, it fades out, but... I think something has probably messed with the old function, the intended function of the holy water zombies. And they don't do quite what they did before. And it will probably not get fixed unless Perfect World decide to assign another dev to the game. I think the new Shadows mob buff may have screwed with it. Could be. Have they got a visible? No. Have they got a visible buff at all? Or is it an invisible one that applies to the back end? There goes 7 of 9. Haha. Was mechanics change also serial mission content and game use? Night Walkers. As opposed to Day Walkers. Hopefully this is the last one. Certainly don't think I have any more holy water. No, I don't. So now fight some more of these blood gorges, but now I'm doing Stalking on the Sunshine, which is kind of a fun mission actually. For all that, actually getting to a sunbed is kind of a pain, especially if you're not a very resilient character. I mean, blood gorges are a big enough problem on their own, to say nothing of the night walkers and immortals wandering around. But if you've got a travel power that lets you get to these sunbeds, you can lure your intended targets over and roast them. Come on. Come and get me. Come get a tan. This isn't the only sunbed either. They're dotted around. But given the amount of damage that you could incur actually trying to get to one, it might be easier and safer for you to stick with one and wait for the vampires to respawn and lure them in. Because they respawn fairly quickly, and they're not terribly difficult to herd into the right place with luring. They're not easy. This is a good position because there's loads of them. I wonder why that set of vampire bats isn't getting hurt. Oh well. One of them just exploded and the other one completely ignored it. No, don't use that. Come on. There we go. There is quite a lot of vampires to kill for this mission, 200, which seems like a lot to me, even though you can kill a lot at a time. It seems very risky trying to wait around here with so many high-powered vampires. If you're not built like a tank. I mean, maybe you're supposed to nip to each one quickly. Oh. Well, this Hogan isn't going to care very much about getting a tan, is he? Luckily, it's not terribly powerful. Yes, they're slightly out of range for getting a tan. on, interact with the bloody thing. There we go. Yeah, normally dragon flick the switch. Very fun to use on immortals. How does it... what does it do to immortals? Let's find out. We've got an immortal here. Very handy. Does it also destroy their mist form? Oops. Yes. So the sunbeds are the only way, apparently, to completely destroy an immortal. I do like him lunging at me straight into the area of effect for the sunbed. Come on, come and get me. There we go. Kind of annoying having my flight turned off constantly. Go. I'm already at 163 of 200. Now, I don't know how feasible it is for non-tank characters to pull large quantities of vampires in this area, because I'm taking quite a lot of damage, and just doesn't seem survivable for non-tanks. It's also amusing how stupid they are. Just intense stupidity. Like, they've got no idea what's about to happen. There's an immortal, let's get him as well. Oops, I wonder why that happened. That was weird. Yeah, I mean, you can break line of sight to reduce the damage you take, but there's also the problem of this game having mobs that completely forget about you if they lose line of sight. Often use this area for farming new shadows pieces. Yeah, fair enough. Do you keep the power source after completing the mission? You probably don't, do you? You probably can't go and pick another one up from the dogs over here, was it? Oh well. Go to betrayal by Boccieri. Okay. Go to Boccieri's hideout, which is, I think, an instanced version of that exact courtyard. For some reason, I don't know why you need to instance it. Except maybe if think of vague memories of it. It's kind of packed with bad guys. But that would just add a third area packed full of new shadows that could unfairly surprise players. I mean, there's already preternatural pot puree and the area for Stalking on Sunshine that are packed full of masses of new shadows who respawn quickly. I do find it amusing that these guys are called sanguinarians, which might as well just mean blood fans. Yes, this leads up to one of my favourite fights purely because of content and concept. Fair enough. Does he ask you to go and do something for him? Oh yes, just realised that the choice between new shadows and dogs during the apocalypse scenario. Would you call it the Vibora Bay crisis? Given that it's a restricted area of Vibora Bay with a final boss fight and a lot of story. Anyway, that bit that we did in Vibora Bay before we came to Vibora Bay proper, that might actually be the only bit of choice I can remember you having in the game, where you choose between new shadows and dogs. That's the only time your character gets to express any personality, I think. What if you catch fire if you land on here? No. It's only in the eclipse den, it seems. Is it weird to anyone else that sometimes the pointing indicator points to a place way above where the mission actually takes place? Like, they are obviously capable of using that to indicate locations at different heights. And in some cases, like in this one, it's obviously possible to well, it's obviously pointing at a place that isn't actually the end of the mission. That's weird. I thought he'd be part of a group. No, he's on his own. Gotta hope that I don't get hit by a control effect, because just standing here puts me in danger of leaving Boshieri's hideout. Although I don't know that I could really say that just a courtyard or I don't know, a series of courtyards, is a hideout. It's a bit too open for a hideout, in my opinion. I think it is pointing at a spawn box or something. I instantly removed it as an option when it was added. I find that the arrows are useful if you're trying to get to somewhere from across a map. They can help in that regard. But the fact that sometimes they're confused over where exactly they're trying to get you to go can be annoying. I know I've already completed Draw Out Marcello Boschieri, but I don't like leaving areas with minions still active. Because out of universe, Doyleist explanation is that they give you XP or drops, or chances for drops. But in universe, Watsonian explanation is that you're destroying more bad guys. Thinking I will have some hero for dinner tonight. Are you? Why do heroes insist on ruining everything I work for? Maybe it's because everything that you work for is awful. All I want is to rule. Is that too much to ask for? Yes. Probably just functionally an immortal. I mean, he looks like it. A cunning and dangerous vampire. I don't know... Well, I suppose... Mind if I stop for a bite? I suppose that probably can technically be called true. For a lower level character, he would be dangerous. I don't know how cunning he is. You look delicious. Oh, we're just going to let him get away, are we? Talk to him. The hero known as Red Snake is dealing with Vladik Dracul. Don't believe me? Here is a video of them plotting together. Vladik Dracul took my life from me, technical issues, and I would see him brought down. If you can use this information against him, then you and I have no quarrel. Go, take apart Dracul's power base. Avenge the many he has wronged in his quest for power. I don't know that I'm just fine with leaving a bloodthirsty vampire to wander off and do as he likes. I'm not really okay with that. But it appears as though I can't do anything to his weirdly outfitted ass. Oh well. I wonder why... I mean, we're limited to this area here. I don't know why they needed to have the whole rest of the... I mean, I guess it's so that you can look out over the map. I changed him. Yeah, I don't think I did. So now it's just hand-ins. We've got Taffy Winters over here. Hiding in a crypt for some reason. I don't know why she's not out and available to talk to outside. Boccieri has a problem with the lead vamp Dracul. Interesting. But more than that, you've got a video record of Red Snake teaching the vamps his style of martial arts. This is huge technical issues. Look, he's not going to take a cheerleader seriously, but a hero like you, oh yeah, you're going to have to confront him. Stalking on Sunshine. Nice. The fewer vampires in this city, the better. Thanks for lending a hand, technical issues. The rate at which vampires respawn it makes me wonder how there are any normal non-vampire citizens left in Vibora Bay. Have I fought Cairngorm Stoneblood? I don't think so. Dojo Agogo, nice. Where the shadows hide. Good to see you again, Technical Issues. I've got a juicy bit of information for you. Supposedly, the new shadows have found some sort of abandoned base beneath a nearby building. It doesn't surprise me in the least. The amount of hidden bases buried under cities in this universe must be enormous. I mean, we've only got 2 cities to judge by, Vibora Bay and Millennium City, but I can only imagine that every city, or almost every city, across the globe is just an absolute ant's nest under the surface. It's not... The city's on the surface level is not built on earth and rock. It's actually built on a series of layers of massive sewer systems and crypts and secret bases, like going down hundreds of feet. Some are saying it's an old viper nest, but I'd rather not jump to conclusions. Why not explore this place and see what the deal is? Feel free to take out any of the vampires you find hiding there. Which, again, as an idea, a city built on top of a huge catacomb of tunnels is an idea, that's used in Terry Pratchett's Discworld series. Ankh-Morpork is built mostly on itself. And there are several books where characters delve beneath the current level streets of Ankh-Morpork and find more things below. There's a section of sewers not far from here, Technical Issues, where the new shadows have been seen entering. We can't let those vampire scum run loose in this city. Defeating some of their leadership, the so-called Immortals, should do the trick nicely. Defeat 12 immortal groups to disrupt New Shadow's operations. I can do that. Let's see what's on this video. Whoa, Red Snake is teaching him Carmessi. This is bad news, Technical Issues. Real bad news. I thought Red Snake was a stand-up guy, but this is bad. Yeah, you've repeated that several times. Look, I don't like it more than you do. Probably that should have been like it any more than you do, but missed on any there. But we have to stop this. Maybe more is going on here, I don't know, but we can figure that out once we've stamped this out. Go to Red Snake's dojo and confront him. Who knows, maybe he'll come clean and go quietly. Or maybe it's a situation of mind control. Let's go and hand in the missions here, and we might as well hand in fishy business as well. So we're collecting a new set of missions. Don't take this the wrong way, but Vibora Bay is no Millennium City. If you want to tackle some of our problems, you'd better be smart, tough and fast, and know when to shut up and follow instructions. I don't know that the last part is necessary. You've helped a lot of frightened families sleep easier tonight, and put a crimp in Sweetland's recruiting scheme. Nice work. Trail of the Werebeast. Look, we know that vampires and werewolves are incompatible. They aren't just enemies that draw their power from vastly different wells of supernatural energy, but they are fundamentally incompatible on a biological level. So can you tell me why I'm hearing reports about a creature who is both a werewolf and a vampire? The creature is being called the Bloodhound. We've already beaten him. Haven't we? Wasn't it Bloodhound that we fought last time in Preternatural Pot Puree? Pot Puree. Whoops. Kicked the desk. Did not intend to do that. Sorry for the vibration. I've cobbled together a supernatural imaging tracer for you. Go to where the creature was last sighted and activate the tracer. If the Bloodhound does indeed exist, the tracer will pick up on the creature's unique energy signature. Or we could just listen out for his unique vocal delivery, which he seems unable to prevent himself from doing. You'll be able to track it and, I hope, discover some clues as to this bizarre and very unnatural creature's origins. Reports on the police scanner indicate it was last spotted just north of the Windsong Mall near the dock. So maybe we should assume that we beat the Bloodhound up, and he goes running off, and then we use this to track him. As Archmage, it's a pretty simple trick to get you through the safeguards Thrakiel's placed on his temple. Oh yeah, I've decided not to do that one, because, strictly speaking, he shouldn't have become the Archmage yet. I don't know whether that's a plot hole or not. I mean, he was intending to become Archmage before, during the Vibora Bay apocalypse scenario, but was unable to complete the process because all of the power gems he was supposed to use got destroyed by Thrakiel. But when we come back in time and talk to him, he's unconvinced that the apocalypse is even going to happen. So quite why he is talking about already being the Archmage, I don't know. I mean, it's not supposed to have happened yet. I think he's one in training or something. He's definitely on the candidate list. Well, yeah, I mean, the fact that he was able to get as far as he did before is a good indicator that he could well and is probably supposed to become the Archmage. It's just there's a divide between, I mean, I suppose we're probably not supposed to be able to see that mission yet, or we're certainly not in story terms supposed to be taking it yet. Is he talking about himself being Archmage, or as though he is as good as Archmage already? Welcome, hero. I know why you are here. Even though I know we have already met, I feel I need to formally introduce myself. My name is Dr. Carr, and if I remember correctly, you are Technical Issues. Since I know who you are and why you are here, let us not waste any time. As we both know, time is of the essence. Let us get to work. You stopped the hijackers? Wonderful. This is unusual. You say the Sovereign Sons all had these bags on them? I wonder what for. It doesn't appear to be something mystical. There is a local hero who goes by the name of Jury-Rig. He may have something you can use to determine what that powder is for. Sovereign Sunset. A shipment of mystical artifacts unearthed in Central America was stolen not far from here. All signs point to the Sovereign Sons executing this crime. Whatever secrets those artifacts hold, the dark voodoo practitioners cannot be... Oh no, this is Sovereign Sunset. We've already done that, haven't we? I mean, it's not got a green exclamation mark, but... Is it repeatable? No, this is asking me to defeat a witch doctor called Heebie Jeebie, and I'm pretty sure that we didn't beat anyone up last time who was called that. Whatever secrets those artifacts hold, the dark voodoo practitioners cannot be allowed to claim them. Recover the stolen artifacts and defeat the leader who ordered the theft, a witch doctor who calls himself Heebie-Jeebie. Okay, let's do that. And we also need to go and talk to Jury Rig. I don't know quite why Dr. Carr can't assume that we already know Jury Rig. I mean, he knows we've gone back in time. Or come back in time, I suppose. And that he and I have already met. So, I don't know, it seems reasonable to assume that I've already met other people here as well. Hey there, technical issues. What do you have for me today? Strange powder, huh? Say, that is strange. Well, I did have some things I needed to collect today. If you wouldn't mind collecting the things on my list, I'll analyze this for you. Most of these things can be found in dumpsters around town. Squeaky toys, well, you'll need to try and get those from the dogs. They might look silly, but if that material really can stand up to a lycanthrope, I think I've found my missing shipment of superplastics. Or if you dabble in crafting scientific things, you could try and analyze the powder yourself over at that machine in the corner. If it starts buzzing, stand back 10 feet. Make it 20 to be on the safe side. Vamps and werewolves and Nephilim, oh my. We've got a problem, technical issues. I was using my ultra-frequency wide-spectrum omniband scanner, and I picked some strange signals. I probably should be picked up some strange signals coming from very far below the city. It was video feed of some sort of crypt-like structure. Inside I saw dogs, new shadows and Nephilim. They all seemed to be working together. I don't know why they'd work together, or why there would be video of it transmitting on encrypted channels, but I don't like it. Get down there and find out what's going on. How did he decrypt the video? It's one thing to use an ultra-frequency wide-spectrum omniband scanner to pick up the broadcast, but it being a super narrow, weird, almost undetectable broadcast doesn't mean that you've also decrypted it. They're two separate things. Encryption doesn't rely on the broadcast being almost unfindable. I mean, if you've got a means to make your broadcast almost indetectable, then and also still reach the people you're trying to get to, then sure, that's a good security feature. But it's still not the same thing as... Oh, Hoggle's still gone. It's still not the same thing as encryption. Encryption is turning your broadcast into a code, which the people receiving the broadcast need to have the cipher for, or the answer for, the way to unscramble or decode the broadcast on their end, so that they can change it back from a scrambled lot of nothing into something that is cogent and makes sense. Like, just because you picked up, I mean, I've already made this point, but just because you picked up a broadcast doesn't mean that you can automatically decrypt it. They're separate concerns. Maybe Jury Rig has concocted some kind of weird junk pile computer that can decrypt, or one of the other heroes. Like, it seems as though what's his name? Dr. Silverback has sort of taken Jury Rig under his wing to a degree. Maybe he's gotten a decryption computer from Dr. Silverback, or maybe they're working together, but there's no mention of that happening. Interesting that we've come in through... It's not quite a blank... a wall backed by a corridor, but there isn't a lot of room for us to get... I suppose we could have come down a very tightly wound staircase or a ladder, I suppose. This one, isn't it? Yeah. Vamps and werewolves and Nephilim? Oh my. Which doesn't quite roll off the tongue as well as lions and tigers and bears. Oh my! I'm not really even sure what that's a reference to. I've only heard other people say lions and tigers and bears, oh my, or some variation. I think it's a poem, but it's not one that I've ever actually read or had read to me. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of poetry in the first place, but so as a result, a lot of my total some exposure to poetry has come from when I was a kid and when my mum was reading poetry to me, like A.A. Milne stuff about Christopher Robin. It may have seemed like an odd decision to run around the post, or the pillar. I wonder why this one's sided in wood. I was trying to gather them together so it was easier to catch them all with an AoE. I wonder why... And this is a single unbroken plank of wood. What the hell? So each one of these has to come from a single unbroken piece of wood, a single tree. Like a very, very long tree has been turned into, or probably a number of long trees actually, given that there are all of these... Oops, the camera managed to get behind the curtain. Very nice. Lining each of these columns, and I can't believe that it's just wood holding the ceiling up. Probably it's cladding on a stone pillar. But of all the materials to use in a crypt, I wouldn't have thought that wood was a good one, because you tend not to see many people in crypts, or like, you know, going in, wandering around, checking to make sure that everything is still working properly. That's why stone is used, because it doesn't decay nearly as quickly. I mean, it kind of does. If there's water flowing over it, then it will eventually be worn away, or if plants grow up through stone, there can be stone blocks can be moved aside or broken. But wood down here in the dark and the damp, unless it's treated, will start to rot. And even then, like, even if it's treated, it may well still rot away, just more slowly. I don't know, I'm no expert on methods of treating wood so that they are preserved. But maybe it's the case, I mean, previously we've seen stone pillars, but maybe it's the case that they all were supposed to be wood lined, or, you know, sided or whatever. But in all other places that we've seen them, the wood cladding, that's the word, the wood cladding has been stripped away. And it's just here where people have rarely come so far that the wood has remained. Wonder where he pulled that cur from. Once again we see a cur with a tail apparently stuck up his arse. It's definitely a choice. His ooh pouch. Please don't. What's that doing down here? That's the same model used for the power suppression devices that are at Stronghold Prison, isn't it? I don't know quite how this would be broadcasting anything. There's no screens to show what... Because usually on a device that broadcasts something, that's where the cur came from. So the Elfen Wolf, or whatever the fuck they're called, pulled the cur from his prison pouch, and the cur has a tail hidden... Well, not hidden, anchored in his prison pouch. So usually when you're broadcasting something, you have a live feed of what's being broadcast visible on the device so that you can monitor what's being sent. But this doesn't have any video camera, video screen on it for a broadcaster to monitor. How have I completed Vamps and Werewolves and Nephilim already? I haven't. It completed before I disabled this device, and I don't know whether there are any more devices elsewhere in this. I suppose it's a crypt, isn't it? Really. Okay, I want to go over here. Is this place empty? A number of times I've flown past people who are waiting, you know, here, and just I've gone by too quickly for them to notice me and pull their aggro. Is there any point in me, or is there any mission? Oh yeah, here we are. There's another device. Okay, I want you to disable all of them. All right. Apart from hoping to get drops, I was wondering whether there was a reason for me to remain here. It appears as though there are also a number of hostages to rescue. Although I still don't know which mission that's for. Nice of my even my tablet to not fully be connected. It's just reconnected to my chat room. Currently doing Winters of our Discontent mission. Every mob is required. Which one's that? I assume I've probably done it, unless it's a mission here. Is it in Canada? Or is it a Taffy Winters mission? Oh, it's in Vibora Bay, okay. Oh hey Mahawkman, welcome along. I apologise if I haven't reacted to any of your messages previously, if you've been saying anything, but my the device I'm using to look at chat is inconsistent with its connection, so sometimes I miss messages because... Oh cool, well, since you only just got here, I can't have missed any of your messages then. Welcome along. Glad you're here too. I'm in the mission map for Vamps and Werewolves and Nephilim, oh my, but I've completed that mission and there are still elements of, I think, it that I haven't completed. Like, there are still people to rescue and still machines like this one, I think this is the last one actually, to disable. And I'm a little bit confused. Been removed from my list of missions. Oh well. I can only assume that I've completed it somehow. And that it no longer requires a hand-in, I guess. An interesting question is how much of Vibora's architecture is in this system of below ground crypts. Yeah, who knows? I mean, it seems as though Vibora Bay, like Millennium City, is actually just an absolute anthill. There's not actually much earth and rock below the city. It's mostly open space in a series of, you know, sewers, crypts, and military bases. Just sort of layer caked. There's a series of... Now I'm remembering it. There's a series of... Oh, nice. One of the artifacts is just in the first room. Yes, so there's a series of underground cities in the Middle East and the Near East that were used by natives of the region to hide from invading members of a different religion. IRL Rome is like that. Yeah, so is Paris. There's there's miles and miles of catacombs under Paris that you can get lost in, and that aren't fully mapped. And there are a number of, I mean, I think London and Manchester are also cities with loads and loads of tunnels underneath them. Built a city above ground and needed more space, so they went underground. Well, no, actually, the cities I'm thinking of are entirely underground. I can't remember what they're called. They're built in sandstone, and I think they were built by Christians trying to escape invading Muslims, or the other way around. Muslims trying to escape invading Christians. Either way, the main purpose for the cities that I'm thinking of was to escape religious persecution by hiding underground. And apparently they were used even until early last century, beginning of the 20th century, I think. Some of them, not all of them. They weren't all used concurrently, and they're dotted around all over the place, very far apart. But they're quite fascinating, because they were almost entirely forgotten about and found by accident. Chicago also has multi-level underground tunnels. In Australia they have Kuba PD, which is a city that was built inside a mine. There's several places where natural shelter in caves was the start of a city. Cool. There's also a city in somewhere in America that's built inside the cliffs of a valley, I think. Sorry, I can't remember the name of these places. I'm not terribly good with names. They often escape me. I remember the images and like the descriptions of the places more easily. Might be thinking of the old Cliff Dweller ruins. Probably. I don't know whether they were still inhabited, or whether they are still inhabited, or supposed to be, but I need to destroy 5 artifacts. Well, recover, not destroy. I wonder how I'm supposed to be recovering these. They're enormous. I mean, I know that my character has already been demonstrated to be able to carry very large objects on her person without it visibly showing. And so I've assumed that she's got some kind of subspace storage. But those are on an entirely different scale. Those enormous South American monoliths. Yeah, those monoliths must weigh several tons each. Yep. No doubt. I don't know why I bothered to pick up block boxes. I go out of my way to do so. I mean, I pick them up often enough just because I'm close enough to an enemy when they die that they drop directly into my inventory, basically. It's not like I open them very much at all. I don't know. I guess I'm just trained at this point to pick things up that drop from enemies in games like this. I can sell them to other players. I do have a stockpile of them. GBGB. of old ones. But if there's something on the that isn't on the auction house, I don't know how much to sell it for, or how much I should sell it for. Can't get them for free really. It takes grinding to get them, and old ones are vintage content. Yeah, fair enough. How have I not recovered all the artifacts? I must have missed one. That's deeply annoying. Oh, I haven't explored this area yet. That's why. I figured that defeating Heebie-Jeebie would be the last thing I did, or almost the last thing. So I figured that was the last room. Evidently not. I came in through here and completely missed that door when I was going back over the area, and yeah. There is a little bit more to the mission than I had thought. I wonder what they're brewing in here. There's an awful lot of these set up. They're almost all identical. I don't know what this is even supposed to do chemically. Is it... The only way that you get liquid in there and get it to stay there is if you take that tube and turn it upside down and then fill it from one end or both, and then once it's full, flip it quickly and then stick it in the liquid so that the pressure is equal. You probably still have an issue of the liquid trying to escape out down to fill this space, so I'm not sure how this is being kept in equilibrium, but it doesn't functionally do anything unless the point of this mixture is a light source, in which case having more of it exposed increases the area lit, I suppose. But something tells me that it's actually supposed to be some kind of mystic voodoo brew, useful for something. I don't know. So many of the props in this haven't been thought out properly. Like, what's this supposed to... These are different sizes, and they're linked by liquid, so the pressure would force its way through one to the other. I think. I'm sure. I think it's a method of separating a vapor from the rest of the solution. If I recall correctly, in actual chemistry, you'd boil one bottle and only have part of the substance in the second bottle. Yeah, I mean, I'm no expert on chemistry. Oh, and there's one that isn't glowing. So they made two different ones for some reason. Two different tubes. But I mean, unless they're being heated magically, none of these are being heated to boil out substance from the solution. Number of shrunken skulls. That looks like a snake. No, it's too blocky to be a snake. That's a carved replica of a snake. And then there's Parrot Skeleton here. I don't know what this was a skeleton of. I mean, that's a rib cage, but it's not attached to... No, it's attached to a stick. That's not a spine or a bone or anything. This is probably another stick, because I don't think there are any bones that shape. Well, this is clearly not a chicken's skull. And it looks like that's sets of legs. So it's possibly a reptile. Well, it's a reptile end there. Maybe a bird rib cage and a bird head, because there are no reptiles with skulls like that. Oh yeah, I suppose it might be a rodent. Might be a rat. Or a rabbit? No, tail's wrong. Could be a squirrel, a very large squirrel. Anyway. Weird props in this game. I've complained before about the displays in the museums in Millennium City. That they're not... Well, I wasn't thinking about the teeth. I know that rodents have very weird, like, front teeth. They've got, like, very, very large cutting, biting teeth. But the size of the skull and the size of the teeth don't really match up with the size of the rib cage. They're a bit too large, I think. I would have said that that was big enough to be a beaver skull, but the rest of the body isn't. Anyway, we've completed the mission. So, let's leave. What have we got? Fishy business. Right, let's select fishy business and oh yeah. Is he back? Is it the correct time? No. Hoggle's still not there. What is it I'm after this time? There's a whole collection of things, isn't there? I need to go dumpster diving. Sparkling book. A sparkling book about vampires. I wonder what that's a reference to. Oh, that's interesting. I've bricked up a connection between these two buildings. These two entirely separate buildings. So there would be a wall running across here, which means whatever is filling this space would have a very weird, narrow shape to the building. Where's it I'm after now? Something here. Musical instruments. Why the hell does... I mean, I can understand musical instruments and scrap iron, CD of the 1024 free hours of... sorry, no. CD of 1024 free hours with an online provider. Probably a reference to the AOL discs that you could get. Squeaky toys. But why on earth does he want a book about a sparkling book about vampires? Not a book about sparkling vampires. That would probably be enough to cross into copyright territory. What's mission 4? Oh yeah, it's quite involved, so I won't do that one just yet. Still baffles me how Twilight got as popular as it did. I mean, I can understand the appeal of the concept, but just the way that it's written, there's so many... Oh hey! Squeaky toys. How many squeaky toys are we after? 10. Wow. Oh, we've got 3. Online provider CD, which you probably would have gotten still at this point. in 2009, they probably would have been prevalent. I don't think that you... They will be sparkling, just wait. The writing is awful. I remember reading it when I was younger. Yeah, I haven't read it, but I have watched little bits of it, and I've watched people reviewing it in several different people reviewing the series. And just from the way that it's like the... You have been blessed. Vampires Suck was great. Oh, it's surprising that they keep showing up to try and get me. I don't know why they specifically are bothered by the fact that I'm helping. Oh no, it's because it's fishy business. It's a lead-in. That's why. They're still mad at me for stealing their mystic white powder. That will probably turn out to have been made from pufferfish poison. Yeah, so, I mean, I don't particularly care about a girl finding out that a super attractive, super rich vampire is interested in her is surprising. I mean, that's... Sovereign Sons use potions made from magic juice. Discovering that you've got an incredibly... Oh yes, sorry. I've decided not to do that one just yet. Let's go and do this one. What they make magic juice from? No idea, but the white powder is probably part of it. I think the white powder is an ingredient in making zombies, and it's pufferfish venom, because I mean, I talked about it in a previous stream at length, and I haven't actually done any more research on it because I didn't think I would need to, but there's an element of factual basis for pufferfish venom being used in the creation of zombies. There's supposed to be a concoction you can make that involves pufferfish venom, probably a very small amount of it, that puts people who take it or exposed to it into a very, very suggestive zombie-like state. And that's probably where the whole idea comes from. Anyway, so I was talking about Twilight, and I can understand the romance aspect that had a lot of people, a lot of men rolling their eyes. Writing a story about a girl who thinks that she's, from her own perspective, is a plain, unremarkable young woman who suddenly has a very attractive, rich member of the opposite sex, or the sex that she's interested in, I suppose, suddenly become interested in her, is a very attractive plot hook, and it's used repeatedly. And it's probably cliche, but like, it's understandable. The issues that I have and that a lot of other people have with Twilight involve how creepy Edward is to be interested in Bella because of the age gap, and how weird it is that he would spend his time, his immortality, staying at high school. Not to mention stuff that happens later. Like in the last book, where it turns out that Jacob wasn't attracted to Bella, but the potential baby she had waiting inside of her, Renesmee, I think. Weird name. and that the baby, which would mature way fast, it isn't even missed in the movies. Yeah, they included it. I remember seeing screenshots of the baby, and it's deep within the uncanny valley. It's very disturbing to look at. Hey, let's give this immortal a round of applause for making it as far as he has. Suffice it to say, it's not the cliche romance elements of Twilight or the Twilight Saga that make it objectionable to most of the people who criticize it. It's the choices that Stephanie Meyer made with the intricacy of her plot that people object to, because it paints the people, it paints Edward and I think Bella as well to a lesser degree as kind of abusive assholes. There are some major plot holes that don't make sense or make the characters actually be kind of awful as people. And 50 Shades of Grey is similar in that it's the decisions that the author made for her character, or her characters, and the way that they behave towards one another that is the awful part. I wonder why these guys keep fading in and out. I don't think it's because they've got stealth, is it? Kind of weird. It's only here that it's happening as well, and they're not ordinarily like vampire bats. No other instance of vampire bats has had stealth, as far as I'm aware, nor has the Sanguinarians. It's just in here. Oh, it's a pair of them. I'm just dying to sink my teeth into you, superhero. No, scratch that. I'm already dead. Ha ha ha! What a knee slapper. Ooh. New Shadow's aristocratic jacket, which I already have, so I'll sell it. About to say, there are an awful lot of immortals in here, but then I realised that that's kind of the point of the mission. I'm supposed to be defeating 12 of them, 7 of which I've already done, so I'm slightly more than halfway there. There's another one, that's 8, that's, Jesus Christ, how do you divide 12 into 8 into 12? 2/3 of the way there, I think. That sounds right. Also, mental arithmetic, another one of my weak suits. definitely not a strong suit. Oh, let's wait until he's spent the last of his energy, disappeared before we go and get that. Oh, it's a bolstering boot. Not terribly exciting. But it is worth money, and is therefore worth picking up. I must have missed one somewhere, because this will be number 11. I think we're in the last room. Has one turned invisible somehow, and as a result skipped destruction? Oh yes, there we are. There's the last one I need. Good that he's in the room with me. I'll have to go searching through the rest of the map for him. Splendid. Let's do where the shadows hide. Defeat vampire groups, access computer records. What was the story of this mission? Good to see you again, technical issues. I've got a juicy bit of information for you. Supposedly, the new shadows have found some sort of abandoned base beneath a nearby building. Some are saying it's... oh yes, it's an old viper nest, but I'd rather not jump to conclusions. Why not explore this place and see what the deal is? Feel free to take out any of the vampires you find hiding there. I think I will. Into a hidden bunker. Entrance of which is found in the corner door of a... I think it's called a brownstone. I have to assume it's not a direct entrance. That there is somewhere inside that brownstone, probably a trapdoor or something, that leads down into this. I mean, for one thing, the inside in here wouldn't fit inside the building that we see out there. Weird place to put a console. Are you going to interrupt me? No, good. I mean, you would think that they'd put a console like this against a wall, wouldn't you? Though having said that, it's not exactly easy to get anything right against a wall in here. I mean, there's this sort of lip bit. Oh well, anyway. There's another door over here. Let's go through this one. much less filled with vampires. I hunger. Do you? What a shame. You just have to die hungry. Probably can't use the console whilst I'm still bleeding, but... So I do keep checking to see whether I've got any messages on the chat, but again, I don't know for sure whether the Wi-Fi is connected. I mean, the window tells me that it is, but... Hey Captain Patriot, welcome. Beating up vampires in probably an old Viper base. Don't know if you're familiar with the game. Ah yes, yes you are. Jolly good. What sort of characters do you play? This is kind of an unusual build. Started out as a damage dealer, but I wasn't quite able to keep up with bosses and the damage they were doing solo. So I switched to have invulnerability and I'm also a Sentinel Mastery build. Since the original release. Nice. I tend to play DPS ranged characters. Fair enough. As I said, this started life as technical issues. This character started life as a ranged electricity build, but it didn't quite turn out to be as viable as I'd thought. I've also played more, well, I started playing around the time the game was released. I haven't played non-stop since then. I've played on and off and seen the game change quite a lot over the... This is, again, a rolling door that you're supposed to bring vehicles in and out through, that backs up right against a section of corridor, so it couldn't possibly lead anywhere. They keep doing this. I mean, this is not quite as bad as if the entrance door was set into a wall that was backed directly by a corridor like this. But visually, it doesn't make any sense. Like, if you consider things from an in-universe perspective, unless it leads to an alternate dimension, like a pocket dimension or a subspace or something. Hold on. Yeah, here we are again. Another section of wall with a rolling door that leads to corridor, or should lead to corridor. That doesn't make sense. Yeah, no. I said earlier that there are a number of things to complain about in the game, and actually it's a little bit difficult to come up with things that you can compliment the game on. I mean, the customizability of characters is one of them, both in terms of power selection if you're playing freeform. Oh yeah, sure, post a link if you want. That's fine. Not quite sure what you intend to link to, but go ahead. And character creation, like flexibility of the character designer, like the character builder, is also a good point. Disappointing that there are powers available for building a control character, but the way that the game is set up... Oh, tank build, cool. Mission complete, so let's leave. You know, it was only earlier this year, like a few months ago, that I realized you could actually do this. Click on Socrates and then click to leave map. The whole time up until now, I'd been playing the game leaving missions the long way around, because I didn't know you could do that. Oh, cool. So it's a force field tank with electricity attack powers, I think. Dojo Go-Go. I think I might go do Dojo Go-Go, and then that'll be the end of the stream. For today. Oh, that's interesting. We're going into a different door this time. Previously it's been this door. Which leads me to believe that, yes, there is an atrium in the building. Because when we're actually inside, we'll see that the doorway here is actually much smaller than the one on the outside, and there's only one of them. So... And because we came in through the left-hand door then, where previously we'd been coming in through the right-hand door, they couldn't both lead to here unless there was a room between this corridor and the outside that was an atrium that we just don't see. And yep, the place is absolutely packed to the gills with vampires. Or the rafters, I suppose. If it was packed to the gills, that would be a person, wouldn't it? Because gills are... You don't find gills on a building, you find them on a living being. I mean, I suppose you might find gills on a building if the builder was really weird. You know, I don't know that Tibet has a vampire tradition. Because Shambhala vampires... Shambhala is supposed to be in Tibet somewhere. I think. Traditionally, Shambhala, if it exists, is supposed to be in Tibet somewhere. And I know that China has a kind of vampire tradition. The vampires are very different from European vampires. Certainly from the vampires that we've come to kind of create through the course of the last 200 years in fiction. But I don't know whether Tibet has any vampire traditions. That's bold, isn't it? She's barely got a skirt on at all. I don't think you can really count that as a skirt. And she's using horse stance, well, not quite horse stance. She's using a stance that spreads her legs really, really super wide. And you only just saw it. I can't say that it was a good idea. Unless she doesn't care. I mean, in which case, fair enough. Doesn't matter now anyway. She's turned to ash. Come on, follow me. Just wondering whether we'll get to see them do any kata again. No, she's instructing, not running kata, not practicing. Interesting conversation. Combination. I'm getting a bit confused now. Conversation going on in the chat about builds, which fair enough. I'm not going to weigh in because I don't really know very much. I don't feel like I know enough about builds and the math behind which choice is more advantageous than other choices. But also because I feel like I want to keep talk about I want to avoid getting into the weeds about power choices on stream because I'm trying to make sure that the stream is as accessible for people who don't play as possible. I don't know that there is anybody watching who doesn't play already. I know my brother sometimes watches, he doesn't play. I don't think he's watching at the moment. But generally speaking, people that watch already know about, or already play the game. But just in case, I mean, I'm also putting records, like the recordings of the streams up on YouTube, so they'll be available. Alright, that's a bind to bring up the Socrates dialog box. Cool. I'm not quite sure how to create binds. I've never really needed to. Oh yes, there we go. There's a vampire in a very, very short... I don't really even want to call it a skirt, but... because it's basically just a drape at the front and then a longer drape at the back. And she's doing very wide leg stance. Moves. Which is bold of her. Bracket needs a space after it, does it? Does it need a closing bracket? That's a bit weird. Okay, and what was supposed to happen? Oh right, you bound it to that. I see. So it was slash bind and then the key that you want to bind it to, and then in brackets or in quotation marks the instruction that you want to have happen when you hit the bound button. Gotcha. We're almost done. There's Courtney Olmacher. On the stage there, using purple brain beam on Red Snake, which we can probably assume to be mind control power now, can't we? Oh, it's part of the new shadows. He's probably going to force us to fight Red Snake. I suppose Red Snake is a reference to White Snake. Can we actually do anything to him until we've taken down Red Snake? It would appear not. Okay. Sorry, Red Snake, old chap. You're going to have to go down. Oh, there we go. No, hold on. Okay. Aha. Curse you, technical issues. You can't stop Dracul's plan. Yes, I can. I'm technical issues. I stop all things. I interfere in all unexpected places. Ah, here actually is a vampire. Interesting. It's just that he's got a name. Oh, my head. Thank you, technical issues. Thank you, technical issues. Would you please give me a moment? Being mind-controlled is very disconcerting. Yeah, no kidding. My head. Thank you, technical issues. Oh yeah, we've already read that, haven't we? Dojo a go-go. I'm not sure how I would have escaped Olmaker's control without you, technical issues. The mind is not a battlefield I'm used to. Yeah, that sucks. Anyway, there we go. We're done. And now, let's leave. Why? There's barely any personality to him at all. I'm not quite sure why it would be enjoyable to beat him up. I mean, what's to enjoy? From where do you derive enjoyment of it? It's pretty much a blank slate. Ah, repeatedly the red snake alert. Fair enough. I've never actually done that. There's a hand in over here, so let's go and do that, and then I think that will be the end of today's stream. So this is probably going to be Black Mask. There we go. She of the please stab me here costume. Up to some crime fighting technical issues. Well, mostly it's supernatural fighting, but yes. Don't hate on call in help foo. It's funny but dumb. Red Snake is the master of that. Oh hey. Arclight. Interesting costume. Using the power symbol. And looks like it's metal. Nice. Aha! So I thought it might be. Great, when Dracul shows up, he's going to see zombie bits and holy water from the Sovereign Sun's territory. He and the Baron will be at each other's throats, so to speak. Okay, thank you for coming by. I hope you've enjoyed the stream. I'll be back on Wednesday, 8 PM to 11 GMT. I hope you have a good week. Goodbye.